This is PenDust Radio. Short stories, riveting fiction, and wildly creative nonfiction. Definitely not the same old story.
So Sandhill Cranes is a story set in New Mexico. It is narrated, and the main character actually of the story is Hector, a young man from a family of immigrants from Mexico. He lives with his aunt, and his mother was deported to Mexico maybe 2 years prior to the story setting. She is now very sick and she needs help, and Hector needs money to help her out. So he gets a job, and we learned very quickly from the beginning that he gets a job at a car wash in Albuquerque. And the car wash is owned by a man named Johnny G, Johnny Gonzalez. And Johnny G is not exactly the most well-loved, beloved character or a person in Albuquerque. And so obviously Hector's aunt is very cautious about it. And so this is basically the story of Hector learning about perhaps his origins and what his parents may have gone through, thanks and through Johnny G's actions. The main character is a student at the University of New Mexico here in Albuquerque. He is in his early 20s. He's studying actually education. And he's, I think, about 1 semester shy or 2 semesters shy from actually graduating, which would be amazing. He could actually have, a good job, be able to help his family back in Mexico and his aunt here in Albuquerque. He's also someone who doesn't really realize what it took his parents to actually establish themselves when they could still be in New Mexico and the United States. He doesn't really kind of understand that much, that story behind it, behind his existence even. And at first even doesn't care much about people who may be like him, or perhaps who may have also immigrated from the South, or really from anywhere. And so he basically sets on a journey of almost kind of self-discovery, or not so much cultural discovery, but more like self-discovery of what he's really made of and where he comes from. I got the inspiration for the story perhaps many actually years ago without really knowing it. I grew up myself as a refugee in Europe in the 80s. I was an immigrant in France, in Canada. I lived in Mexico for a long time. And here in the United States, I'm also an immigrant. I just got my green card, which is pretty much short of a miracle. The way I was treated at the border between Canada and the United States, starting in 2017, more or less, was absolutely out of this world. I mean, I had crossed borders all over the world. I had even crossed borders illegally when I was a child. But this was different. And I really ended up being interrogated several times, being insulted, called a liar, called, you name it, basically things that people should not call you for just being a human being trying to go into a country to visit someone, for instance. I flew that day to Albuquerque, and I remember going to a grocery store, stopped, and I started looking around and I said, how many people here have gone through this? Like, how many people have, because again, I went through something that was horrific, but my life was not in danger. I was not out of money. I was not in any political danger. I was not going to get killed going back to Montreal. How many people did I meet on a daily basis here in New Mexico who actually were living in fear? And I actually spoke to this woman whose employee, one of her employees, had just lost his son to coyotes. And so that just kind of got to me. I was like, and I had heard those stories before. I had spoken to people who already had suffered through this, but that just kind of clicked it. I was like, okay, that's what it's about. think it's twofold. So one, you have the language. I speak a few languages, and I do really enjoy playing with them. I especially love English. I kind of noticed that I write where I want to revisit. So often it's not so much the character that comes to me, at least not this year. It's very much the place. So it's not so much escapism. It's not even traveling. It's kind of just almost physically putting myself there again and seeing it and reimagining it, and feeling it again. So that's why I really especially enjoy these days. I was just so incredibly amazed. The moment I heard the voice, I relaxed. He did such an amazing job. I also especially felt that suddenly the story wasn't mine anymore, and it felt good. It was really out there in the world. Whatever people think of it is whatever people think of it. It's also just not mine anymore because he basically acted it. So it's not mine anymore. It doesn't belong just to me. It doesn't belong to the people who read it in my MFA program. It doesn't belong to my husband who read it about 50,000 times, the poor thing. Keep on revising it. It really belongs to the person who read it, and to everybody else. Or it doesn't belong to anyone. It just kind of left me. And I felt it was very freeing. And I thought it was the most magical thing.
PenDust Radio. Definitely not the same old story. Please visit us at PenDustRadio.com.